to Catholic Conversations. As always, I'm your host, Joelle Zarnowski, and this week we are joined by Gwyn Gleason.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So we're celebrating National Nurses Day.
Yes.
And you work as an ICU nurse here in Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to have somebody who is working in the healthcare field and who is also, active and practicing their faith to kind of share their experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate you being willing to do that.
No problem.
So to start out, so my sister's a nurse, and I know how demanding the job can be. It is not for everybody. No. She's told me stories that I'm like, I don't know how you do this. Like I would be a mess, especially so she was working in oncology and then she worked in end of life care.
Okay.
And I would think that you get really attached to your patients.
For sure.
And I wouldn't be able to handle that emotional baggage that comes along with that.
Tax.
So I really feel like being a nurse, it takes a special person.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, what led you to becoming a nurse? What inspired you to follow that path?
Well, it was probably junior year of high school. I definitely felt a pull towards healthcare. I just felt like it was something that always inspired me. Like if I were ever at the hospital for a family member, or if I needed to get something checked out, I was always interested in anatomy too. Mm-hmm. So once I took an anatomy course in my junior year, I was just automatically hooked. I'm like, this is really cool to learn about the human body. And it was something I was interested in and learning about. So that was really the main push was learning more about anatomy. And then I guess more of the medical route was nursing just spoke to me in the bedside care. I liked learning about my patients. I like talking to them, even though I work in the ICU, you don't really talk to too many of your patients, but when they get better, it's great to see. And I think that's what inspired me, was just to help people from their worst to their best. And then if it is their worst day and they're not going to get better, and then you can help the family and support in that way. So I think it's a good best of both worlds to kind of get to know the family and the patient. So yeah, that's so great. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that you started your career in the height of the COVID-19
I
pandemic.
did, yeah.
I think your sister said that you were August of 2020 you started working at the hospital.
It was June, 2020.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that experience like for you? Coming into something that was just it was overwhelming. I mean, the ICUs, I'm certain at that time were full, a lot of people on vents.
Yeah.
And how do you think that experiencing that, along with having the faith that you have, how do you feel that helped shape you in your profession? Yeah,
it was definitely hard. That's a very simplistic way of putting it. But when I first started, just starting out in general, you just feel overwhelmed, you feel underprepared. And I had to go home April of 2020 because of the pandemic starting, and we didn't go back. I moved out of my house and I started work in June. Once I passed my NCLEX, I was just working as a nurse, and it was all hands on deck basically. And we had to kind of band together and help everybody out. But it was honestly very rewarding too. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to feel as confident doing the things that I did because I saw a really high acuity of sick people at that time. And it was very, very eye-opening too, to see all of that, because sometimes when you start out, especially in the summertime, people are getting better. There's a lot of discharges just with the weather and everything. Yeah. There's not as much sickness. But then when that pandemic came through, it was like I said, we were all just banding together, helping one another when we could. But a lot of stories that stuck out to me, a lot of things that I saw that were very, very emotionally hard too, not just physically. And I was working at least 4 to 5 days a week at that time. So it was pretty thrown to the wolves, essentially. So, but I'm a learner by doing. So it really helped me in that sense too, because I didn't get a externship in the ICU because we had to go home because of the pandemic. So it was good for me in a way, but then again, it obviously wasn't a good time in our world. So it was a blessing in disguise, and sometimes very hard, but you look back on it and you're like, wow, I learned a lot. So
Yeah.
It's a good take on it, but it definitely was hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
mm-hmm.
And I would think too, like during that time, family members couldn't be there to visit. So you really were like the only support that your patients had. Like they didn't have people who could come and see them and sit with them. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I would think that that had to be really hard, especially for patients that maybe they weren't going to be going home. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're there with them in their final moments when their family can't be.
Yeah.
And, again, like really takes a special person. Like God definitely gave you a gift because not everybody could do that work and show up for their patients every day.
Mm-hmm.
And especially during such a difficult time where like you're trying to keep yourself healthy, you're trying to keep from burning out so you can show up for them.
Yeah.
Definitely a very difficult time. And I feel like it's changed the way that we handle things now. Even, you know, we're much more,
and your outlook
cautious
too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
On
Absolutely. So how do you feel that your faith has kind of like influenced the way that you approach your career and how you interact with your patients?
Yeah. I definitely look at life a little differently the more I get into my faith. And I honestly, like growing up and going to church, we went to religious ed every week. And, you know, as a little kid, you find it kind of boring. You can learn about it, but unless your teacher's really interesting at religious ed, it's like, But once you really grow up and you see some hard life experiences, the faith aspect of it helps you just get through those days. And even on the good days too, when you know, if you're doing your Bible study or you're going to church and you're feeling the Lord whatever way possible, it's honestly just the most fulfilling thing to me when I can see, like, in those moments, if I've had like a patient where she told me once she was suffering from stage 4 lung cancer, and she was just like very unwell that day. It was one of her last days. She had died that weekend, and I was taking care of her right before she passed, and she just kind of looked at me and she saw my necklace, she saw my cross, and she was like, "Oh, that's such a beautiful cross. I love that." And she's like, I'm a believer too, and I'm really scared. She kind of opened up to me in that moment, and it was like something I'll never forget, obviously. And she said to me, I was like, "Thank you. It's special. My mom gave it to me. Like I'm also a believer too." And she goes, "Can I ask you something?" And she's like, "I'm really scared, but I think he's gonna take care of me, right?" And I was like, "He's going to take care of you, honey. And she's like, "Can I give you a hug?" I was like, "Yeah." Oh. And it was like one of the moments where I almost cried right in front of her because it was just so moving. Yeah. And I actually did. I went out in the hallway and I started crying. But just to know that she was in that much pain in that time, but she was so graceful. He was with her. He was there with her the whole time. So it was good to see her be able to just find that comfort in her last moments. Those are the times that bring me back to my faith every time. To know that the things that Jesus did in his worst moments, and it's like we can get through anything if, you know, he's there with us, and he always is. He's always there to help take care of us, take care of others. So that's something that I love about the job, because it reminds you in those hard moments that it's going to be okay. It's just in the day. You got to get through it. There's some days that are worse than others, but it's definitely worth it in the end because he's there to help you through it. Yeah. So that's just how I lean into it, because it's something that is, if you don't have faith, then what are you doing it for? You know, like you're doing it for the people around you and yourself, but also you have him there to kind of lift you up in those moments when you need it most. So. Right. Yeah. Well, and it's a good reminder that you're never alone. No. So even in those moments where it feels like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to help this person who's dealing with something absolutely unimaginable that like you can't make it better for them in the sense that like you can heal them, but you can make it better for them in the sense of like I can give them comfort. I can help them to know that they're not alone because he's here, I'm here. Like, and I would think too, even your patients that are not Catholic or Christian, like maybe they don't believe, but they're still seeing that love of
Jesus
Mm-hmm.
through you
Mm-hmm.
and the way that you treat them.
Yeah.
So outside of that experience with that one patient, are there moments throughout your work, like even just on a daily basis, where you feel like you see God in your work, and what do those look like for you?
Yeah, definitely. I have seen, in my coworkers, a lot of the times when you're having a really hard day and they're like, what do you need? What can I do for you? And that's just in itself, it's reassuring, because I've been at jobs where people haven't been that way, or they'll just be like, oh, good luck, have fun. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
right, I'm struggling by myself here.
Right.
But it's just, especially like at the job I'm at now, I can't be more grateful for my coworkers. They're just amazing. And in those moments, it really helps, like I said, get through the day with people. And if it's not your day and it's someone else's, then you can be there for them too when they're, struggling, or even if they just need a simple, act, like helping with meds or helping with a turn or something. It just makes their day a lot easier, and that's a peace of mind for you, which is helpful. But also, I think, I see it every day in my patients too, whether it was during COVID or during like a situation that I had with a family member. A lot of the times you see it in the moments that are the hardest, for sure. A lot of the times the family members will lean into you, which is another way I see God a lot. They'll just kind of, in those last moments, like if you're watching someone giving their meds and you know that they're not going to last long, they'll look to you for support. And the best thing that you can do is, if they have questions, educate. If they need, a minute alone and they need to step out, go get them tissues. Like, do something for them that they need in that time, because it's the hardest moment of their life. And to recognize that and to know that, and then see that, it's very, very difficult for them to even ask for help, or, ask for something that they need, like tea, a glass of water, anything,
Right.
then that is the Lord, in a sense of just being there in the smallest way or the biggest way possible. Like, whatever it is that they need or the patient needs, that's how I just kind of see it with working with the Lord at my job every day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I would think too that now that we're kind of on the other side of the pandemic and things are as normal as they can be. We have a new normal now, obviously,
which is good.
Yes, for sure. But I would assume that it has to be easier now that family is able to be there. And so, they have that support of their family, and they have you.
Yeah.
But I know I'm pretty sure every hospital in Syracuse, at least, but I'm pretty sure most hospitals also have a chaplain. So I would think that that's something else that you could offer to people if you know that it's something that they want, or if they ask for. They're available. And a lot of our priests will go up and do hospital visits too. I know Father Zach in Liverpool, he's
I see a lot of them.
I'm sure you do.
I did just see him actually yesterday.
He mentioned that he was heading up there. So, but and I know that that's really important to him in his ministry, to be able to be present for people during those times.
For sure.
So what would you, if there's somebody who's considering going into the medical field in some way, whether it's nursing, being a doctor, whatever, and they are wanting to work in the healthcare field, but they're also wanting to still do that work through their faith, what advice would you give to somebody who's kind of like, how do I make this work? How do I do the work that I need to do for my patients, but also, use my faith to help me through that?
Yeah. I would say one of the things is do it for the reasons that you love the job. If you're learning about it and it's something that you feel passionate about, that's a way of the Lord telling you that it's something that you should be doing. But if you don't find fulfillment, if you don't find that you're passionate about it, then I would say ask him, lean into what other kind of aspects of life that you find interesting and that you like. But a lot of times I feel that with people in their 20s, they feel like they don't know like their passion or really what they have found for their purpose yet.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You're not going to find it right away. But a lot of the times when you know that you're doing the right thing is when you feel it. That's the way of him telling you. So I think that's important. People a lot of times ask me, like you said, how did you know you wanted to get into nursing? And it's like, well, when I am having a good day, or even if I'm not having a good day, at least when I go home and I'm praying to him and I'm like, just basically give me the strength to rise above all of this in my life. And that's a lot of, it's a little like saying I say to myself in some of my prayers. And a lot of the times I get an answer of, it's okay. You're doing fine.
Yeah.
So I would say just lean into him. Just ask him, what you need, what what your heart wants, and he'll show you eventually.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I think that's a good way to see it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Like if you truly feel called to it, and you, even on the hard days, know, like, I'm doing this for a reason, that is his way of telling you, like, this is what you're meant for.
Yeah, because everyone has those questions in their mind. Am I doing the right thing? Am I, supposed to be doing this, or maybe I'm not? And a lot of the times when change happens, that's when you feel the most uncertain. But if it feels right while you're doing it, you're like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, even though it's scary, even though it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And trust me, there will be scary things throughout healthcare. So definitely just lean into it. And like I said, ask for help, and he's there. Yeah. So
that's great. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your experience. And
of course, thanks for having me.
Happy National Nurses Day.
Thank you.
And hopefully people bring you treats at the hospital and you guys are pampered. And
I wish treats to your sister too.
Oh yes. Yeah, I will definitely. We always do something nice for her and then I think actually next week is like International Nurses Day, and then there's like Nurses Week, and they're like all together. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure that you guys will get lots of gifts, but it still doesn't.
All the candy.
Yes.
All the candy.
There you go. So anybody that has a nurse that they want to appreciate, candy. Or coffee. I've heard coffee is good too. Yeah. Yep. So awesome. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Joelle.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you to our listeners. We will see you next week.